How is how is the how are the classes going so far?
Great. I'm learning a lot.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a really great linear. Excuse me. Hold on one second. It's a great linear kind of understanding of the two big modules of our business, which is kind of building your real estate business infrastructure, and then the transaction itself. So as we move through this, today is, if I'm not incorrect, contract to close. And that's kind of illustrates the all of the players in the process, right? It's not just one person who brings this to the finish line. It's it's you and your team, and that team consists of lenders and escrow and inspectors, title reps, and the such. So you have to make sure that you have a reliable team in place. And if you are forced to use someone, or not forced, that sounds horrible, but if a team member is it comes with the package of the buyer or the package of the seller, then you have to go out of your way to develop that relationship so that you can create a smooth transaction, or as smooth as possible. Every transaction has its challenges. All right. Anyone else want to share before we get started? All right. So let's, Carly, if we can move forward, that would be great. Yeah, you can see where we are in this process. We spent the first half of this going through setting up our business and with lead generation and presentations and previewing properties, and now we're getting into the transactional piece of it, right? And so, negotiate contracts, transaction management to closing, vendor management, compliance, risk management, is I guess what we're all going to talk about today. And the people, you can move forward, Carly. Yeah, so, we're going to build buyer and seller timelines, best practices for managing the deal, using Command as a transactional management tool, which is really, really helpful for a new agent. I would really, really encourage you to invest time learning and practicing and playing with Command. It is a tool that you can use in every aspect of your business. Then we're going to also, and then we'll also, we'll take some questions and recap the whole thing at the end there. Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Carly, you want to move forward? Okay. So here we start to understand how to build a buyer's timeline, right? The buyer's timeline and the seller's timeline are distinct in many ways, but also there's lots of overlaps. So we're starting with the buyer's timeline, and we're starting this timeline at the execution of a contract. So a fully executed contract. Can anyone tell me what is entailed in a fully executed contract? Mm-hmm. What connotates a fully executed contract?
You just need completed signatures from both the buying and sellers, correct?
Yeah. So that the buyer and seller have come to terms on the price and the terms and the timelines of the contract, and have fully executed it with signatures. Exactly right, Parker. All right. So then So that's where we're starting this journey. Every area does closings a little differently. In our area, we work with escrow. I think below Santa Barbara, escrow and title are two separate entities. And in some states, you're working with a lawyer actually who executes the final documentation at a closing table. But here in Southern California, we work with escrow and title. And title is the insurer of the property. They ensure the clear and clean title before it is exchanged and going forward for a period of time to warrant that the previous owner doesn't have any any hanging liens against the property that might have been transferred without, which happens very seldom, but does. So title is the insurer of the clear and clean ownership, and they also exchange the title from they transfer the title from seller to buyer. They do the physical transfer of that title once they warrant that all the monies are in place and all of the terms of the agreement are executed, right? All right, so draw out this timeline. We'll add some things. When we get back into the classroom, I will do, I'll draw out the timeline for you because I think there's really great, and I'll bring in all of the vendors who participate in this timeline because everyone is doing their job at the same time. Escrow is the neutral administrator of the terms of the contract. Okay, they do not work for one side or the other. They do not work for brokerage. They do not work for the agents, right? All they do is they take the terms of the agreement and they put them into action, right? They can't change anything. They can't alter any of the terms. They can't unilaterally do anything except administrate the terms of the contract. They communicate with title. They communicate with lending. They do not communicate with inspectors. They do not communicate with pest control. They just communicate with the principals, the agents, the people supplying the money, and the people warranting the clean transfer of that property. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. What's important to do, this is going to be a reoccurring theme throughout this conversation and throughout your life as an agent, right? You're definitely going to hear from me, but it's about relationships. Okay. There's no reason to have an adversarial relationship with anyone in this transaction. Okay. There are some agents out there that think that is the value for their clients. And in that, it's counterintuitive to your client getting what they want. Okay. So if your client brings you a lender, you reach out to that lender as soon as you start working with that client. Do not wait until they get into a deal. Reach out. You working with a lender? Yes, I have the lender in place. Okay, great. If you could, please give me their information so that I can, start to build my team to get you what you want. And so you reach out to that lender, you touch base with them, and you ask them questions like, the viability of this particular client. Do you foresee any issues down the line? What could be the challenges? And what tools do you have to thwart those challenges, right? Same with escrow. If someone else is choosing escrow, then by all means, you call the escrow agent and you make a friend. okay, you get, it's a cliche, but you catch more flies with honey, right? And it really is true that there's nothing you can't solve between two willing parties, including the agent on the other side. All right. So I apologize for the background noise. My girls it's lunchtime and they get a little gamey. So here we are. We have our lender, our escrow, fully executed contract, and the timeline starts. What I like to do from the buyer side is I always want to get my inspectors out there ASAP, no matter what the timeline. Okay. The misnomer with inspections is that, if we have a 17-day inspection period, that we could be asking for a request for repair, remedy, or some kind of compensation or consideration for the new information up to that last minute. Well, that's not true. You want to get this process started as quickly as possible, doing the investigations, so that you can ask for some kind of consideration prior to the expiration of the contingency. The contract comes with three contingencies default wise, and that's inspection. Also, sorry, my brain's not working at 100%. Inspection, appraisal, and loan. Okay, so the inspection and the appraisal are 17 days default, and the loan is 21 days default. All right, you can alter that in either direction as it goes forward. But for the sake of this conversation, let's just keep it at the defaults. So, but the inspection, very, very important to order those. The first thing I do after I tell my agents, after I tell my client that their offer has been accepted, is to start ordering those inspections. And this is where I start personally. General inspection is always the great part. It's a great place to start, right? You want to get the general inspector in there because he has knowledge of all, but mastery of very, very little, right? What he's going to do is he's going to identify substandard and possible health issues that might come up in a particular property. So it's defects, health standards, and the such. So that you want to get him in as quickly as possible because he's going to get a generalized understanding of the condition of the property, and you'll know what specific inspections you have to get next. And so you want to have enough time for that. So I get my general inspector out there in the first week so that I know who else I might need to call. Maybe an electrical problem of substance exists, or a plumbing or roof or foundation, right? There's lots of different options there. You want to get those secondary inspections because you want to quantify the defect and the repair, right? We make the offer on the property on what we know and what we're told, okay? And so what we see and what we're told, I'm sorry, in that you will, it's a rarefied kind of understanding. Unless you see leaks from the ceiling, and if you see plumbing squirting, water squirting out, and you still make that offer based on that knowledge, then that's one thing. But most times there are things that the seller nor I can see that comes up in the inspection. That's what we're really focused on, and we're focused on issues, defects that materially affect the value of the property, right? Not the minutia. You're buying a used product in most cases, and there's no such thing as perfection, and nor can a seller reach a level of perfection that would be acceptable to any buyer. You're buying a used product. There's wear and tear. There's there's used systems. There's worn down systems, or systems that might go in 5 years or 10 years. A roof might have 5 years left on it. An HVAC system might have a couple years on it. This is all part of the process in determining value and understanding value. Is that pretty clear?
It is.
All right.
Yes.
So we do our inspections. Also, in that first round, if it has a chimney, I order a chimney inspection. If it has a roof, 1 second, my daughter's going to order me some lunch. What do you guys like? Just you order me what I like. What's that, honey? Sure. Yeah, you know what kind of things I like. That's okay. So if it has a chimney, you want to order a chimney inspection. I will always order a sewer line inspection, a video inspection, because well, let me tell you the third one. If it has a pool, I order a pool inspection. So right out of the gate, there's general, chimney, pool, and sewer line, right? And those extra 3 are because we live in a seismic area, and this is Southern California. We have earthquakes. These are the most rigid parts of the structure. Okay, unless it's a cinder block or a cast concrete structure, the chimney, the sewer line, and the pool are the most affected by any movement in the ground, right? And again, it's under the ground. Sellers don't know. It's nothing nefarious, but we're trying to find out as much information as we possibly can. So send those out if applicable. When we get the general back, I look through the general to find any pieces of or any red flags in it that I would get a contractor out there to get a estimate on remedy. That's what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to understand, how do we get this property back to the value that was our initial understanding, right?
Mm-hmm.
When my first child was born, the doctor, she went for her first doctor's appointment, and the doctor said, "This is a healthy child. She will live to 100. How she lives her life and what the things that happen to her over the time she's living affect that lifespan." It's the same with the property, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't set that expectation up with your buyer also, right? And we want them to focus on those big rocks. If you don't have that conversation with your buyer previously, their natural inclination is to get to as close to perfection as possible. And that's just not going to happen, right? It just doesn't happen in this world. So we've done our inspections. We brought out inspectors, and now we are, we brought out the contractors who gave us information on rendering or remedying those issues. We now can present to the seller a request for repair. I'm going to tell you this, and it might be a little abstract, but the request for repair is not tied to the timelines of contingencies. Okay, it's separate. So you have 17 days to do your inspections. You don't have 17 days to do your inspections and ask for remedy. Okay, so that's why you want to get it in prior to as early as possible, prior to the expiration of contingencies, so that you have a little leverage. Okay, because in theory, they can ask you to remove your inspection contingency prior to responding to requests for repair. The seller has no obligation to respond to the request for repair. Yeah, right. They will, because they want to get the deal closed, and in a good world, that this is information they did not have, right? I live in a house, I can, and I'm a real estate professional, and I can assure you that I don't know what's going on behind the walls or under the floors or under the ground, right? I know there's something going on down there. So you want to get all that information, and you want to present it with the estimates to the seller's representative for remedy, repair, or remedy is repair, I'm sorry, remedy, a credit, or a reduction of price, right? That's the way it goes. Does that make sense to you guys? Any questions about that?
Yeah, Joe, I've got a couple quick questions for inspections. I know you mentioned the couple that you typically recommend. Is there anywhere in our resources just like a list of like all the recommended outside of general, or like if this is a condo, make sure you do these inspections versus a home or a townhome or whatever that might be?
Absolutely. Well, the inspections are the same. Okay. It's always a general inspector. If you're in a condo or townhome situation, which is a group environment, and there's a pool, then that's not your responsibility. You don't have ownership of the pool. So you wouldn't be inspecting the pool. And sewer line is also iffy, but I would explore that conversation a little bit. Yeah.
And then ultimately it's up to the buyers what they want to do. And then I guess one of my questions is,
Sure.
for liability, where does the responsibility come down to versus, hey, I recommend you do this, versus them saying, hey, I actually don't want to do that inspection? Have you navigated that very much versus people like not wanting to do certain inspections?
That doesn't come up very often, but it does come up. It's a good question. And there is a hold harmless kind of document in your WIN forms, where you're basically saying we recommend it's pretty repetitive. It's in the RPA, and it's in the seller's disclosures that this is recommended, right, over and over again. So and then you're telling your sellers on top of it. It's hard to get away from. It's hard for a seller. It would be hard for a buyer to come back and say, "Oh, well, they didn't really." They minimize the importance of that, right? Because it's everywhere in the contracts.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so while we are doing our inspections, the lender is qualifying the buyer and qualifying the property. There are two entities that have to be qualified in this loan. You're putting down 20%, but I am putting down 80% as a lender, and so the lender is looking to make sure that the property is of value. Excuse me. And he's also making sure that the borrower can fulfill his obligation to pay that monthly bill, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's going on at the same time. You want to stay in constant contact with the lender. What you don't want to do is you do not want to be the conduit between the lender and the buyer. Okay, let the lender do their jobs. Let them communicate all the information they have to the buyer.
Joey,
Yes.
So basically, when you introduce them to the lender, just let them do their job and handle it, and you step out. Because that's
Step out of the
kind of,
out of the communication piece,
yeah,
but do not step out of the process. You want to know where there are, if there's a problem, if there's, if it's going smoothly, if we're on track
right.
to close on time, to remove the contingencies on time, to get the appraisal on time. Yeah. Yeah. So you want to have an understanding of the process, and you want to, so that if there is a problem, I've had this in the past, a lender calling me and say, oh, we can't get your client a deal. We can't get your client a loan. It's like, okay, did you call the client? Oh, no, I haven't called them yet. Well, what are you calling me for, right? Call the client and you let them know that you made a promise you couldn't keep, right? And that sounds a little harsh, but it's kind of true, right? You want to, what you want to do is make sure that, I always recommend that my client at least talks to 2 lenders, right? When they say, oh yeah, I've been working with a lender, say, great. I always recommend that my clients talk to at least 2 lenders, so that they get an idea of, is there a better opportunity or a better solution financially for them to purchase this property. Right? And so in that case, listen, not a commercial, but Andy Kristinot has been an amazing partner over the last 5 to 7 years, right? And so I always recommend that they talk to Andy. Just talk to her, right? Just to get a second opinion on it. It's about getting the client the best deal. It is super, in the, raise your hand, like digitally raise your hand if you've gone through the loan process. You guys know how to do that? Oh, Parker does. There you go. Yeah. So Parker's the only one that's gone through the loan process to purchase a home.
Oh, no, I have.
Michelle. Okay. All right. Yeah. And so I would encourage all of you to apply for a loan, right? Especially the way it is now. It is. I assume that if not all of you did not have not applied for a loan, that someday you want to own a home, right? And why wouldn't you? Okay. So I would encourage all of you to go through the application process now. Okay. Understand what your clients are being asked for. You don't have to have mastery. You don't have to be a lender. I don't want you to be that, right? But I want you to understand what your clients are being asked for, so that when the lender says, yeah, I'm having a hard time getting your client to getting our client to proof of employment or their bank statements, or that you understand the context of that ask. So and for anyone who wants to own a home, it's important to understand where you are today to get to where you want to be to purchase a home. Okay. There's nothing punitive in it. It's not a personal, there's no personal, like, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not a personal affront. Okay. You do it because you say, I want to be here, and to get there, I need to know where I am today. So do I need to get my credit score up? Do I need to get my down payment there? Do I need, so it's the same thing you would ask your client to do. And so I encourage you all to do it. It really is informative. All right, so let's move on. So we got our loan, we got our appraisal. From the buyer side, the lender is going to send the appraiser out there. They will reach out to the buyer's agent, a seller's agent, excuse me. They will not reach out to you. Your participation in that is optional. But I would encourage you to understand valuation, and if there's any kind of worry about that, that you make sure that the appraiser is that you only have one chance to change the appraiser, right? And that's before they do the appraisal. Okay, and in that you just want to make sure, whether either side you're on, you want to make sure that that appraiser understands the area that that the house is in, right? And they bring outside appraisers, and you can get a very static appraisal that doesn't really make sense, and and so you just want to make sure that the appraiser is is familiar with the area and has done appraisals in that area, and that they have you can ask them, would you like, I have some comps, would you like me to send comps? Usually the selling agent does that piece of it too, but they will reach out directly to the selling agent to set that appointment up. So here you are, day 17 on inspections, day 17 on appraisal. You have done your inspections, you've presented a request for repair, you've negotiated that request for repair, and everyone's good. You've gotten the appraisal back, and it appraises, and it's time for you to remove your appraisal contingencies for inspection and appraisal. This contract is an active removal of contingency, okay, which means that you need to actively remove it, that your client has to sign the contingency removal for those particular contingencies and send it over to the seller. In the same respect, you can't hold this, the buyer cannot hold the deal hostage by not removing the contingencies, right? The tool that the seller has is the notice to perform. The notice to perform is a 3-day notice to perform. So if they send it on the day that the contingencies are up, you have 3 more days to remove those contingencies. But they can remove it up, they can send it up to 3 days prior to the contingency expiration, which means that when the contingency expires, that you have no necessity to it's up that day. And if you don't perform or remove it on that day, then they get to cancel on you. The seller has very little outs in this contract, but non-performance is one of those outs. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so you got some other things on here. We've removed those contingencies, and now all we have is what is that? 4 more days, right? 17, 3, and 1. Yeah, 4 more days for the loan contingency. Do not remove the loan contingency without talking to the lender. Okay? Put the onus of removing that. You have to physically do it, of course, but put the onus of removing that on the lender, right? Because he's the one that has to perform on it. He or she, of course. They're the ones that have to perform on it. So I always go to the lender, and I go to the lender. Don't go to the lender at day 20. Okay? Just like, don't ask for anything at the last minute if you don't have to. Stuff happens, right? But if you can avoid it, please, if you see that you're going to need more time, ask for it not at the last hour. Ask for it prior to that. Set the stage for it. It's an integrity piece, right? If someone comes to you and says, Michelle, it looks like I can't get a contractor out there until the day of our expiration of contingencies. it looks like we might need a little bit more time. And that person will say, fine, send me an extension of time and we'll work it from there. And so it's very, very simple, but it's much easier to digest when it's not like today's the day and it's like, oh my God, well, our guy just came out here today and you know, I'm not going to have anything until at least tomorrow. He says maybe even it'll take 2 days for him to get me an estimate. That doesn't instill you know, it does not instill belief that you can get it accomplished, right?
Mhm.
Communicate, relationship, you know, deal with people the way you want to be dealt with is my suggestion. All right, so we've gotten to loan contingency. The lender says, Joey, we're good. Appraisal came in good. And the borrower got me everything. We're good. Let's surf this to the end. Once you take off all of your contingencies, guys, that's then and only then is your earnest money exposed. Okay. Prior to that, the buyers can take that information and say, listen, I thought that the condition of this property was a little better, and I'm really not up for the fixing of it. So I think I'm gonna pass on this opportunity. Or you know, financially it's a stretch, and with the condition, I think I'm gonna pass. That's what the contingency period is for. But once you take off those contingencies, you're saying, hey, I looked under the hood. I looked at value, and I looked at my capability to purchase, and it's all good. I'm going to remove these contingencies and we're good to go. And that's the home stretch, right? And in that home stretch, you know, you're buying home insurance, or you're identifying a home insurer to escrow, and escrow puts it in there. And home warranty, if it's part of the contract, gets administered. 9A report is a local report that gets delivered to you prior to that. It's part of the disclosure package. And hopefully the seller has delivered all of their disclosures in a timely manner, right? The rest is a surf to close, right? It really is, you know, escrow's getting all of the pieces in place. The title, the money, the lender's contribution. It's getting all put in place, and then understanding where does all that money go. That gets all lined up, and then if you're in a 30-day close, day 29, the escrow it gives everything the green light. They have everything all positioned, right? So that on day 30, title can say, we're going to go down and record, do the switch, and at that point, the ownership changes from one person to another. Okay, does that make sense? Any questions about the buyer's timeline? I went in deeper than I probably should have, but
I thought it was great. Joey, one of the things, I think it was Christine in one of the classes that was, I can't remember if it was earlier this week. I think she mentioned with the new RPA that the new default for loan contingencies is now also 17 days. Do you know, is that accurate, or did I mishear her on that?
I'll defer to her. I was not aware that the loan contingency defaulted back to 17 days.
And I should probably just look at it, but I just wasn't sure if you were aware as well.
My brain, again, part of my brain is not working at top performance today, and I'm learning about the new RPA. I would encourage you to stay with the 21 days. I would encourage you, anything to do with lending, you're going to talk to the lender and say, how long will it take you to close this deal? Okay, so don't go for a 30-day escrow if the lender's saying, oh, we can't get anything out before 45 days. Don't put a 17-day, the timelines are fluid. You can ask for more and you can offer less, right? But let the lender determine what the loan timelines are, the lender that your buyer is going to go with. So, Andy can do 14 days and I still put 21 days in there. Give yourself a little bumper room. That makes sense?
Yep, thank you.
Any other questions about the buyer's timeline?
Mm-mm.
No.
Seller's timeline is much easier, right? Because once the seller agrees to the terms of the offer, they are the only way out for them is if the buyer defaults on the terms, right? If they don't remove the contingencies in the timeline, if they don't put their earnest money into escrow, if they don't, right? Then the seller has the means to get out. But really, if the buyer performs, the seller is hard pressed to get out of the contract without some kind of, financial or legal action. The seller does have an obligation to allow access to the property, reasonable access, I think it's defined as, right? They do have the obligation to perform to the terms of the contract that they agreed to, right? They are not obligated to respond to a request for repair or to give a reduction or credit or anything like that. That they are not. But most sellers are amenable because they want to get to the finish line too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, the seller timeline, much easier. They're signing, once they agree, they're allowing access. They are understanding, they should be focused on where they're going in 30 days. And they are signing the grant deed. They are also signing a bunch of other documents, right? And dealing with any liens or issues that are dings on the title, right? The preliminary title report comes out in the first 5 days. It doesn't catch everything. It's not the deepest dive. So there might be some things coming up at the end of, near the end of the process that send it, into a tailspin. But doesn't happen very often, but does happen, right? And it does happen that sellers find themselves in the process and are like, I don't want to sell. And, unfortunately, that's messy. That's messy because they don't, if the buyers are performing on the terms of the contract, this is a legal contract. I mean, some people take it casually, but this is a legal contract that has consequences, legal consequences. So for sellers, it's a surf to the end for the most part. There's not much they need to do. There are, and in that, absentee sellers are not uncommon, right? Which means that the seller doesn't live in the property or moved out of the property already and maybe lives in another city or country. That's all manageable. They don't have to be physically present in the United States or in this state. But when you get outside the country, all the notary signatures have to happen in an embassy. I'm sorry, in a U.S. embassy, right? There are some situations where it could be administered by a lawyer, some countries. I think the Philippines is one of those. Yeah, but don't hold me to it. Questions about the seller's timeline? Anyone? Good. All right. Okay, so let's move forward a little bit. Carly, maybe. Oh, there she goes. Plot communication points. Okay, yeah, keep it moving. So one of the many ways that you provide value to your clients is by making the closing happen seamlessly, right? Your relationships are essential for closing a deal as they are for getting a deal. It's important to know who to contact, when, and what you can do to make sure that every one of the people involved in getting to close has the information they need to move forward. You're the producer of this experience, right? Your client is looking to you for it. Any imperfections in it, which, guys, there will be, okay? This is a problem-solving job. That's the fun of it, for me, at least. It can be very, very stressful, okay? And, well, I won't go down that rabbit hole because the rabbit hole is to how to take care of yourself in this situation, right? Because there's lots on the line. There's lots on the line for your client and for your business. So you want to, the better the relationships you have with all the support mechanisms, the easier it will be for you to solve the problems when they show up, okay? And they will show up, okay? Does that make sense? So, so from your understanding, and hopefully I was clear, who are the players that you need to communicate with? You could just jump out there and just tell me, who are the players that you need to have relationships with in a transaction?
The lender,
Mm-hmm.
inspectors,
Absolutely.
Escrow officer.
Absolutely. Who's your partner in it?
The other agent?
Absolutely, Eric. Absolutely. You want to, yeah, you want to make them your partner in this process. Hopefully they're trying to achieve the same thing you are, and that's getting their client what they want. Guess what? Sometimes it doesn't work. That's okay. But you want to do your best to get them there, all right? You don't want to be what I see, let's say out of 100 transactions, that in Los Angeles, 85 of them close, okay? Of the 15 that don't close, I would say there's at least 5 to 7 of those that are, that the reason they didn't close is because the agent didn't do their job properly. It could be it's always communication. It's always communication. Yeah. I was gonna give you a list of things and I couldn't think of anything but communication, right? On the agent end, on the other 7, gosh, it could be a plethora of things. It could be issues with title. It could be buyer's remorse. It could be, there's a million different reasons. And don't hold me to those numbers. It's just kind of to illustrate that the agents have the ability to bridge the gaps through relationships. All right. The next piece was plot documents on your timeline, right? This is where it's great to use command and the the opportunities piece of command, because you can create checklists in there, right? It comes preloaded with checklists, but you really want to go in there and tailor them to the best of your abilities. And it's also, that should be a fluid piece. As you mature as an agent, you're adding more nuanced details in those timelines to what and how you communicate or do all along the way, right? There are multiple people involved, but there are documents that need to be filled out or submitted to the various parties so that they can do their part. You need to know who needs what documents and when they need the documents. I mean, we have a transaction coordinator, but for new agents, which, you all are on this call, I would encourage you to do your first few deals, do all the paperwork yourself. You really want to understand the cadence of it, the people who need to be involved in the conversation, and you really want to understand how could you hold the transaction coordinator accountable if you don't know the process yourself, right? And that's why I encourage you to, take out a loan for yourself too, because I think that's really, really, it's really educational and really gives you a depth of understanding that you would not have if you did not do it yourself, right? So, all right, best practices. So this is about risk avoidance, right? Again, not every deal will close, but the majority of them will. And if you do your job properly, it's our job to give it the best opportunity to close, right? So you want to position it for success. You can't be responsible for your clients' idiosyncrasies, right? You can only work with them in the best way you possibly can, nor can you alter or be responsible for the condition of the property that you're buying or selling, right? You have to get it to where, if you're the selling agent, you want to get it to the best possible presentation form, and you want it to be priced in alignment with that presentation form. And for the buyer, you want to get your buyer poised to purchase, getting them with a reputable lender, getting them pre-qualified, giving them information that that gives them the understanding. Setting expectations is so important. Fear lives in the not knowing, right? And of course, buyers are going to be fearful, right? They're spending a lot of money on a product that they know little to nothing about, and it's a very tedious process. So, and they're trusting that you can get them what they want. So, in that, there lies fear. Being able to belie that fear through information and mastery of the process is what we all aspire to do, right? So the questions are: what is the deal at risk of falling apart? What are the best practices to keep the deal alive? What tasks have deadlines, and what are those deadlines? And how can you help manage other parties involved in the deal, right? So let's anybody want to so to your understanding, what are deal killers?
Misinformation or lack of communication.
Sure. What
Not-
else? Yeah.
No.
Anyone else? What's going to kill a deal?
Not being able to reach an agreement. For example, if you're doing an inspection and you find there's this huge foundational issue and the seller doesn't want to fix it and they're not willing to negotiate, then that can kill a deal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anyone else?
Negligence or not following through with what you communicate to your everybody,
Yeah.
everyone in the process.
That happens for sure. Anyone else before we move on? Okay, and so next question is, what are the best practices in keeping a deal alive? What did we learn today?
I think communication.
Yeah, stay in constant contact with your lender.
Yeah, absolutely. Communicate. It's your team, guys. Don't think that you're doing this alone. Create a team, and whether you're choosing the vendor or not, make them part of your team, right? I think there's real power in that. Do we have time wise? How am I doing with time, Carly? Okay, great. Got a little time. So let's move forward. Co-broker relationship. We talked about this a little bit. What could happen if you have a negative relationship with your co-broker? How could the deal be affected if you didn't cultivate a professional relationship with your co-broker? Now, I'm going to tell you, sometimes you're going to do your best, and it's just not going to penetrate. Human beings have a varied degree of intentionality in relationships. And like I said in the beginning, there are some agents who think that being adversarial really aids in their client's goal. I've never seen that work out, but okay. So do your best to develop that relationship during renegotiate. You're going to do it up front. Do it in the beginning, because once you get to the when you don't want to start to develop a relationship while you're negotiating with someone. You want to have an open forum of communication prior to that. So when you get to the tough stuff, the conversations can be civil and constructive, right? It doesn't mean you're losing some position for your client, in no way, shape, or form. All right. Miss Carly. Okay, so the next slide will probably show us, it's about when it closes, right? It's like we spend all this time trying to acquire the opportunity. We spend more time processing the opportunity. And then at the end of the deal, we dump these clients, right? I've had clients like, a week later. So it's like, I'm going through Joey withdrawal. We talked every day and now we don't talk at all. It's like, you have to stay connected to this opportunity for so many reasons. And we have technology to help us in that. The KW app is great. You can create vendor lists for and utility lists. I think you want to be a part of that next piece of their life, right? There's joy in that moment, and you want to play off that joy for business purposes also, okay? And relational reasons, right? People are so happy when they get their new property, right? Most people. You want to, you want to recognize that process. You want to be a part of the vernacular of that experience, right? Not just the acquisition, but the living in it, the next steps. Oh, hey, They bought a used product. They're gonna want to do some things to it. Getting vendors and having vendor lists and being a part of that. You don't have to do the work for them. Don't go out there and start setting up appointments for people to paint and do and to do work and to manage the construction of a property that was just acquired. But you want to be a resource for them, right? And then there's the fun one, which is closing gifts. Like closing gifts, really, really fun. You're making a lot of money off of this person, right? And you should do something to show your appreciation. They're not giving you anything for free. You're working for it. When we do the division of hours into return, it's not as compelling as you might think. But you work with some clients for a year before they find a place. That's a lot of hours that rack up that you spend with them, right? And deals and offers and the such, right? So I'm not saying that that you're getting some kind of prize, but you want to just be a part of the joy of that moment. Something that I like to do is, everybody does something a little different, but it's something that I used to like to do is say, hey, I love to throw you a housewarming party. Okay, invite all your friends. I'll bring the beverages and food, and you just enjoy the moment, right? And in that, you're there. You get to be a part of the conversation. It's at least one or two referrals you can get from doing that. I always keep an eye out or an ear out for an appliance or something that they need or want in the process and try to get that for them. Sometimes some compromise was made during the deal. 1 second. Some compromise was made during the deal that you stepped up for. That's also, that's not the preferable gift because, they're just taking, there's no, there's no remnant of that, right? If you buy somebody a washer dryer every day they go to do their clothes, they're thinking about you having bought them that washer dryer, right? If you do chip in $500 to solve a problem during the deal, not so much, right? So what are some other ways that that you can what other kind of closing gift ideas do you have?
When I bought my current place, my realtor was kind enough to pay for the moving expenses, which I thought was really, really kind.
That's classy. Yeah. And what did that mean to you, Parker?
I mean, a lot, like, because before that, I was typically the type like, hey, let's, invite the friends over, buy pizza and beer, and let's, work for a day.
Yeah.
But I was kind of past that point. He knew that I was going to hire movers.
Sure.
And, it meant a lot because it made the process so much easier. And again, obviously it's a big financial investment when you're,
Sure.
Buying a new property. And it was just like, help me breathe a little easier. Like, great. That's one other thing that I don't have to worry about. That was going to be, over $1,000 that's now just taken care of.
Yeah, that works. Anybody else? No? How about, what would you give as a closing gift?
Ooh, what about like Hello Fresh for them? So, because they're busy moving in, they don't have time to like go grocery shopping.
Yeah, that'll work for a period of time, right?
Yeah, like they have a little trial period.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Anyone else? Okay. All right, let's move forward. The next is the use of command in this process, and it really is an incredible useful tool. One is the exploration of opportunities, like I said, and that's a checklist that you create for buyers, for sellers, for lessees. And as you check them off, you can also, there's stages, right? Stages in the process. You can also, Carly, if you want to forward, you can also, oops, too far. That's all right. Don't worry about it. You can also do what? You can also share that accomplishment with your client through an email. So as you check things off, your client gets an email saying, hey, today we did this, we accomplished this, we're this part of it. So that the clients, again, you want to assuage as much fear as you possibly can in the process. Another a great tool is consumer guides in the consumer applet. You can there's tons of information about for buyers and sellers articles that they can use, and you can share them with your buyers and sellers throughout the process. Informational articles that they can, and you can add to that. You add to that guide also to personalize it for you. So this is about the sharing of information through technology. It takes some of the time on task away a little bit. I would encourage you all to do that. All right, now we're at ahas, guys. What did we learn today? Anything you'd like to share? I love these aha questions, right? It's how has your thinking changed? What ideas or mindsets are new? Let's start there.
I really appreciated when you're talking about contracts and just doing everything yourself for at least the first couple of transactions, so that again, you can, even if I did hire a transaction coordinator somewhere down the line, me knowing all the ins and outs of that paperwork, I think is just going to make me the best agent possible. So I think it's, one of the things I'm reminded right now is putting in all the hard work here in the beginning to really set myself up for success. So I think just today was more confirmation that, you've got to really dig in and do these things right now so that, down the line, things can be easier. Agreed.
You will be able to serve your client better having done this in the front end, for sure. Anyone else? I love the next question is, what do you feel differently about, right? What was meaningful for you?
I think for me, what was meaningful is just because I'm so brand new, that I see how important you're just building a foundation of the basics of what needs to happen with buyer relationships, with your team, and just, making everybody feel like they are of value to you in your own, in your circle. So everything's very good today. Thank you.
It's relational on the intake. It's relational through the process, right? If people, you work to get people to trust you and to believe that you can get them what they want, then while you're getting them what they want, there has to be, you have to maintain that that confidence in you, right? Yeah. Anyone else? Do you have something, Michelle?
I don't, but I love the fact that just communicating with everybody from the lender to the inspector, always communicating is really important. Don't just let them do their job. Make sure that you're in constant contact. So if anything comes up, you need to bring it up immediately. And that's something that I'll take with me.
I agree. Yeah. If you just think about when you have experienced a high level of customer service, that is impactful. It happens a lot in hotels. Hotels really go out of their way to greet you. To everybody greets you, right?
It's the best feeling in the world. You feel like
absolutely,
people
absolutely.
Makes
Yeah.
all
You want to create that you're creating a customer experience,
Mhm.
right? Yeah. Any other ahas that anyone like to share? Okay, guys. Well, thank you for today. Thank you for my patience, your patience, and my coughing every once in a while. I'll be
Joey.
It's my
Thank
pleasure.
you so much.
It's my pleasure. Yeah, I'll see you again tomorrow. Tomorrow is a day in the life, right?
Yeah.
Tomorrow. All right, Carly, let's get some Beatles queued up for that. Okay. All right, guys. Have a great day.
Have a good
Thank
day. Bye,
you.
Joey.
Feel
Bye.
better. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.